Today we're going to get right into it, and I need everyone to share this information. We don't have much time, and I've gotten into this before, but we are now like a month and a half away from the date encoded in the Georgia Guidestones of 8/16/2024. And I'll get into that, but I want to show you first how they tell you what they're going to do before they do it. In this episode of The Lone Gunman, this was a spin-off of the X-Files. 1 year, I believe it was less than 1 year before 9/11, they had an episode called Pilot where they showed exactly what was going to happen. The crisis averted, of course, because it was a television show, but a remote control plane nonetheless that was going to be crashed into the World Trade Center.
These look like counterterrorism scenarios, war games developed for the Defense Department.
What's scenario 12D?
Airline terrorism? That doesn't make sense. Your father was murdered over a war game?
Download it. We know it's a war game scenario, that it has to do with airline counterterrorism. Why is that important enough to kill for?
Because it's no longer a game.
If some terrorist group wants to act out this scenario, why target you for assassination?
Depends on who your terrorists are.
The men who conceived of it in the first place. You're saying our government plans to commit a terrorist act against a domestic airline?
There you go. Indicting the entire government as usual. It's a faction. A small faction.
For what possible gain?
The Cold War's over, John. But with no clear enemy to stockpile against, the arms market's flat. But bring down a fully loaded 727 into the middle of New York City, and you'll find a dozen tin pot dictators all over the world just clamoring to take responsibility and begging to be smart-bombed.
I can't believe it. This is about increasing arms sales.
Modem protocols. Remote access. Somebody on the ground's flying your plane.
Bogey, sir.
Keep your course. We need to know our flight plan.
I'm mapping the data now.
Buyers, your flight's gonna make an unscheduled stop in exactly 22 minutes.
Corner of Liberty and Washington. Lower Manhattan.
World Trade Center. We're going to crash the plane into the World Trade Center.
NGO.
We've got manual override.
Scary. Now, we're talking about the Georgia Guidestones, they call America's Stonehenge, which were blown up a few years ago, I believe. But back in 2014, they put a cube in there. On the outside, you could see 20 and then 14. And on the reverse sides were encoded a date and actually a year, if not a specific date within the year 2024. And I'm going to get into that a little bit. But they're talking, this whole monument is talking about eugenics and depopulation. And they even mentioned it in the X-Files. Give a listen to what they say about America's Stonehenge and the people involved with it.
We took a field trip to what they call the American Stonehenge. They would wear these robes, black and red, and they would sing and they would chant, and then they would tie me and my sister up. These men and women, they would make us do things. They called me a breeder. They would get me pregnant and then they would kill the babies. I've had 3 children and they're all buried in the cellar.
My religion, my family, Agent Mulder goes back in this town 7 generations. They fled persecution from people being persecuted, all in the name of religion. I was raised to believe Christianity was synonymous with hypocrisy. Man's natural tendency was to do what thou willst, not do unto others. We believe man is nothing but an animal. No better, no worse than those that walk on 4 legs. And although I believed our faith kept us powerful in the community, wealthy, good health, the blood of the young is considered very powerful. We'd include them in the ceremonies against their will. They were too young to be trusted not to talk.
What about Shannon's memories?
We'd perform a sort of post-hypnotic suggestion that repressed their memories. When they came of age, 18, 21, then they were made aware of the religion and brought into its practice.
Did you really think you could call up the devil and ask him to behave?
That's right. The people that are responsible for the 10 commandments of this Luciferian, devil-worshipping New World Order are the same people that control the world. And they are dead set on culling the population by up to 90 or more %. This is depopulation and this is eugenics. Before this monument was destroyed, somebody used a drone to fly over the top of it. And I don't think I need to make a comment as to what's up there. If you look at the stone that used to be in front of the Georgia Guidestones, like the marker stone, it was erected on March 22nd. Now that's 322, and that is Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale that calls themselves the Brotherhood of Death. George Bush Sr. and his kids and others.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go
I'm
wild.
sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the web.
Number 322?
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
Is there a secret handshake? Is there a secret code?
I wish there were something secret I could manifest.
322, a secret number?
There are all kinds of secrets.
These are the same people that gather at Bohemian Grove and have their cremation of care, where they burn their care for the damage they're doing to the people of this world and the world itself. They worship the devil and are Luciferian Satanists.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law.
And now is a time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it. And we've got to unite the rest of the free world in doing it.
These secret societies stem from Yale University and other Ivy League schools, but focusing specifically on Yale. Yale is Hebrew for a goat. Actually, a mythical, massive goat with tusks and all sorts of crazy nonsense. But the largest one to be pictured here is an ibex. And if you know your Bible, Jesus will sort the sheep on the right and the goats on the left. The goats go to hell, and that's why they use this tongue-in-cheek, the goat, even as their mascot. Whenever they drop the term the GOAT or any reference to it, it's them.
When the second plane hit the tower, his chief of staff entered the classroom and told Mr. Bush, the nation is under attack. Mr. Bush just sat there and continued to read My Pet Goat with the children.
Why do you think they were reading My Pet Goat during 9/11? It's them. And they will show a connection to Yale and Satan here.
Yes, I definitely have some big shoes to fill.
Boots. Have big boots to fill.
Okay. Boots.
Merry Christmas, I wrapped it up and sent it with a note saying I love
Spelling. There we go. And here, very subtly, Kubrick in Eyes Wide Shut did the same. Check out the jackets and sweatshirts.
Looks like the pink team, huh? Merry Christmas, Mary! My brothers are back there. They prime cut of meat, baby! You want to take a ride this?
So the date 322 on this monument shows who was responsible for erecting the thing in the first place. A secret society of devil-worshipping Luciferians at Yale University called Skull and Bones, the Brotherhood of Death. And they want us all dead. They put it in a monument. And in 2014, they put up a cube on two sides that you could see 20 and 14 showing the year. On the reverse sides, you have 8, 16, MM, and then JAM. And that's a date. If a specific date, possibly, but without question the year 2024, and I'm going to show you how I got that. MM in Roman numerals would be 2000. The M is 1000, so MM would be 2000. And you've got 8 and 16 equaling 24. So 2024, and JAM is Indonesian for o'clock or time. And Indonesia is the largest Muslim country. It's a country with the largest Muslim population of 90% of its people. So if that were to be a date or a year for a sleeper cell to be activated and attack, that would be it. This could also represent a specific date in 2024, because JAM also, if you just add up an alphanumeric cipher of JAM, the J is 10, the A is 1, and the M is 13. That's 24. So it could be 8, 16, 2024. More of a reach and a double meaning with jam, but possible. So I'd keep 8, 16, 2024 in the back of your mind, but I don't think we're going to make it that far without it hitting the fan. So on a website, Doug Casey's International Man says, Doug Casey on the shocking 2025 Deagle forecast, war, population reduction, and the collapse of the West. It goes on. Deagle is a private online source for the military capabilities of the world's nation states. It recently released a shocking 5-year forecast. The report analyzes countries by projected population size, GDP, defense budget, and more. In it, they predict a 70% reduction in the size of the United States population. This is a bold prediction. What are your thoughts on this? It goes on. I've got to say that I wasn't familiar with Deagle. It keeps a low profile. Deagle is in the same business as Jane's, which has been in the business of analyzing weapons systems for many decades. A look at the Deagle website, which is quite sophisticated, makes it clear we're not dealing with some blogger concocting outrageous clickbait. It seems to be well connected with defense contractors and government agencies like the CIA. And if you look They have removed this, but he was smart enough to take a screenshot of it, and I'll have a post to this in the description of this video. You can click on and check it out yourself. It shows the U.S. is going from roughly 330 million people down to under 100 million in the year 2025, which makes this date in the Georgia Guidestones of 2024 fit right into that depopulation agenda. Everything's falling into place. Check this out.
CBP reportedly warning Hamas and Hezbollah terrorists could be crossing the southern border. As sources reveal, there have been more than 23,000 known gotaways this month alone. Our next guest has nearly 3 decades of immigration and Homeland Security experience. Laura Reese is the director of the Heritage Foundation Border Security and Immigration Center, and she joins us now. Laura, I just got to go straight to the numbers because I think they tell a great story and not so great at the same time. So if you compare the fiscal year 17, 18, 19, and 20, you got 2, 6, and 3. But if you go to fiscal year 23, you got 169 people that are on the terror watch list. Should we be concerned?
Absolutely, because in addition to that number, we also have at least 1.6 million known gotaways. These were illegal aliens who purposely evaded the Border Patrol, gave up their free plane ticket to anywhere in the U.S. because they didn't want to be fingerprinted. So we have to assume among them are additional known or suspected terrorists, convicted aggravated felons, drug smugglers, and human traffickers. So we have to act like the sleeper cells are already here in the U.S. and preemptively find them, and they should be detained.
So, Laura, I guess the question is, why do the folks feel so comfortable coming now to our country illegally?
Because they know the border's wide open. There's been foreign nationals from over 160 countries who've come through that border just while Joe Biden has been in president. The word has gotten out, and they know that the open border policies are in place, and now is the time. So when illegal aliens get into the country, they call back home, they tell their family, they tell their friends, they say now's the time, it's easy to get in, and so the flow keeps coming.
So, Laura, it's not just people on the terror watch list. Apparently, encounters of Chinese illegal immigrants at the southern border have surged over 1,000%.
That's right. In 2020, a typical month would see about 1,000 Chinese nationals at the border, and just in September, that number has jumped to 7,000. And the vast majority of them are single adults, and most of them are male. So given the number of ways that China, Beijing spies on the U.S., we have to assume that there are Chinese spies that have come into the U.S. and, again, act accordingly. Secretary Mayorkas of Homeland Security, unfortunately, has directed ICE to not arrest, not investigate, not detain a lot of many of the illegal aliens here, and Americans shouldn't wait for a terror attack to happen for the Biden administration to act.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing, but it's not smart. I know they get these same numbers that we're reporting to our audience. Let's just hope that they change before something happens.
Border Patrol saying they have encountered 12,000 illegal immigrants on the southern border. That's on Tuesday alone. That's the highest daily total ever. Senator Lindsey Graham with this message for President Biden.
If you're awake, you better come up with a solution to a broken border before a bunch of people get killed. This is a national security disaster in the making.
Elsewhere along the border, take a look at this video out of Border Patrol's San Diego sector. News Nation capturing this footage of a large amount of Chinese male nationals that crossed illegally near the Jacumba Hot Springs area. So this is happening all along our southern border, guys.
What I would say that is unique about the environment that we're in right now in my career is that while there may have been times over the years where individual threats could have been higher here or there than where they might be right now, I've never seen a time where all the threats, or so many of the threats, are all elevated all at exactly the same time. That's what makes this environment that we're in now so fraught, and why funding our men and women who are working shoulder to shoulder with state and local law enforcement and other partners every day makes it even more important, not less.
So
blinking red lights analogy about 9/11. All the lights were blinking red before 9/11. Apparently, obviously, all of us missed it. Would you say that there's multiple blinking red lights out there?
I see blinking lights everywhere I turn.
Okay, all right. Can't say any better than that.
Brace yourself. Concerns are growing over the possibility of a Hamas-like terror incident right here on America's home front. FBI Director Christopher Wray warns of violent extremism and a spike in threats in the wake of Israel's war with Hamas. Dale Hurd reports U.S. borders are vulnerable, and data confirms terrorists have already snuck through.
Under questioning by FBI agents, New Yorker Ali Karani admitted in 2017 to being a member of something called Unit 910. It's the Black Ops unit of Hezbollah, controlled by Iran. Karani told agents he was trained to be a suicide bomber and was scouting targets in New York City. He's now in prison. Another Unit 910 member in prison this year, New Jersey resident Alexei alias Alex Saab, had also scouted potential targets around New York City. While the exact number of Hamas and Hezbollah sleeper cells operating within the United States is not known, a comprehensive study by George Washington University last year found the most Hezbollah activity in Michigan, New York, North Carolina, and California. If Americans are wondering if they're safe from the kind of attack Hamas carried out against Israel, terrorism experts say the answer is not encouraging. Former FBI Special Agent Eric Karen.
We have over 1,000 joint terrorism task force cases going on here in America today relating to Muslim extremists.
And what really is a clincher for me is the website fairus.org. It's got a ticker on illegal border crossings on the current date that you're in and keeps counting and counting as the day goes on. But it gets into what sanctuary states are, which we know what they are, and which states are sanctuary states and when they became sanctuary states. And with the exception of one state, and that being Oregon, which was the first sanctuary state back in July of 1987. All of them have become sanctuary states within the past 10 years. All right, most of them back in 2017 or 2018. And that shows the foreknowledge of an open border. This is legislation passed and advanced with foreknowledge of open borders to bring about a mass insurgency into this country to bring it down.
I propose that we end the world, but on our terms. An orchestrated apocalypse. One that will cleanse the earth of its population but leave its infrastructure and resources intact. It's been done once before, with great success. The chosen few will ride out the storm, not in an ark as in the book of Genesis, but in safety, underground.
They're building their bunkers and have been for years.
And when it's over, we will emerge onto a cleansed earth, one that we can then reboot in our image.
This is their plan of order out of chaos. Everybody's heard that term. Order out of chaos to them means slavery out of freedom. Okay? To them, free will is chaos. And they will do anything to do away with it. Listen to this.
The coming of man came the illusion of free will. And with that illusion came chaos. Man is a cancer, and I've chosen to cut out the disease.
You're talking about killing
everyone who ever lived, whoever will live. I choose to make the only possible real choice.
You're insane.
They are insane. And there's a reason that guy Batman was talking to about killing everybody is called Owlman. Right? That's the Bohemian Grove, their god. I will not mention his name, but this is who they do sacrifices to. One of the many, but at Bohemian Grove, that's the large owl. They're psychopaths. And George Orwell wrote all about these people and what their plan was in 1984. And what he got into talking about was called newspeak. That war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength, order out of chaos. Order out of chaos was not in 1984, but it's that same newspeak, right? Where it's the reverse. And it doesn't make sense. Order out of chaos to them truly is enslaving the entire population because free will is chaotic. They don't want you to be able to decide what to do or what to think. They want to eradicate your free will. And they want to cut the population down to what they consider to be a reasonable size to be enslaved and serve them. The definition of tribulation is distress or suffering resulting from oppression or persecution. Oppression is defined as unjust or cruel exercise of authority or power, something that oppresses, especially in being an unjust or excessive exercise of power. Persecution is defined as the act or practice of persecuting especially those who differ in origin, religion, or social outlook, the condition of being persecuted, harassed, or annoyed. The tribulation is intended suffering put on a people by those in power to persecute, oppress, and eradicate and enslave the population.
I used to say, early on when I was a kid, I'd say, when I was a young senator, I'd say, if I were a Jew, I'd be a Zionist. I am a Zionist. You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist.
35 years ago, I said, you don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist, and I'm a Zionist. You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. I don't care if you think I'm Satan reincarnated.
I treated the elite, although I refused some of them. But a head of state came to me, and she had chronic issues, health issues that we did manage to correct. And one day she said to me, you know, it's almost time for the great culling to begin. And I said, what? The what? She said, culling, C-U-L-L-I. I know the word, but what are you talking about? She said, the culling of the useless eaters. Now, this was in 2002, and I had never heard the term useless eaters. Now, partly because of me, I think a lot of people have heard of that term, but I was new to it. I said, what's a useless eater? She said, not what, my dear, who? I said, okay, who's a useless eater? She said, those people who are consuming our non-renewable resources. And I said to her, did it ever occur to you that you're consuming their non-renewable resources? And she said, oh, well, that's an interesting idea. Well, anyway, and she dismissed that out of hand. She said, it is time, it's almost time for the culling of the useless eaters. And I said, well, how many of these useless eaters are you planning on culling? And she said, 90%. And I said, 90% of what? She said, the total world population. And I said, whoa, 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 whoa. Wait a minute. Your enormous fortune, this is an immensely wealthy person,
Yes.
your enormous fortune depends on selling massive amounts of shit to huge numbers of people. If you don't have huge numbers of people to sell your massive amounts of shit to, how are you going to maintain your enormous fortune? And she said, no, you really don't understand, do you, my dear? I said, clearly not. And by the way, I hate it when people call me my dear who do not have a relationship with me. But she said, the mercantile era, which began in the 14th century with the Hanseatic League in Germany, is coming to an end. We are moving to a neo-feudal era. There will be us, the neo-aristocrats at the top, surrounded by our servants and servitors. And that, Maria, was the first time I ever heard anybody use the word servitor in a sentence. Surrounded by our servants and servitors, and around them, our technicians. And that entire short pyramid requires only 10% of the current world population. And she left, cured, by the way, and she also brought me her children to see. And I thought, either this woman is a completely insane lunatic, or she has just given me a deeply, deeply valuable clue about reality that I didn't suspect anything about. And of course, the answer is both, as the world so often gives us complex answers. Because yes, she is a psychopath. She was raised to be a psychopath. And a psychopath has no affiliation or concern or connection with or affection for anyone or anything other than his or her own perceived well-being or benefit. And she also was giving me very valuable information. It had the ring, as crazy as it was, of truth.
The tentacles reached far back into the last century. But it wasn't until victories in Europe and Japan and the onset of the Cold War that political and economic conditions became perfect for actual execution. A conspiracy bigger and more secret than the Manhattan Project.
More odious and far-reaching.
What are they trying to do?
That's the missing piece.
But it's not hard to imagine. A government driven not only by corporate greed, but a darker objective.
The takeover of America.
And then the world itself, by any means necessary, however violent, or cruel, or efficient. By severe drought, brought on by weather wars, conducted secretly using aerial contaminants and high-altitude electromagnetic waves. In a state of perpetual war. To create problem, reaction, solution scenarios to distract, enrage, and enslave American citizens at home. With tools like the Patriot Act and the National Defense Authorization Act, which abridge the Constitution in the name of national security. The militarization of police forces in cities across the U.S., the building of prison camps by the Federal Emergency Management Agency with no stated purpose. The corporate takeover of food and agriculture, pharmaceuticals and healthcare, even the military in clandestine agendas to fatten, dull, sicken, and control a populace already consumed by consumerism.
And I encourage you all to go shopping more.
A government that taps your phone, collects your data, and monitors your whereabouts with impunity. A government preparing to use that data against you when it strikes. And the final takeover begins.
The takeover of America.
By a well-oiled and well-armed multinational group of elites that will cull, kill, and subjugate.
Happening as we sit here.
It's happening all around us.
The other shoe waiting to drop.
It'll probably start on a Friday.
8/16 is a Friday.
The banks will announce a security action necessitating their computers to go offline all weekend.
Digital money will disappear.
They can just steal your money?
Followed by the detonation of strategic electromagnetic pulse bombs to knock out major grids.
What will seem like an attack on America by terrorists or Russia.
Or a simulated alien invasion using alien replica vehicles that exist and are already in use.
An alien invasion of the U.S.
The Russians tried it in '47.
You can't say these things.
I'm going to say them tomorrow.
Saying these things would be incredibly irresponsible.
It's irresponsible not to say it.
Especially if it's the truth.
And I'm saying it as well. Check out this from a documentary called Ring of Power, made by one of the Rothschild family members back in 2002 to warn everyone.
There are 3 books which clearly map out the Zionist plan for world domination. The Bible, written by Hebrews, Morals and Dogma, written by Freemason Albert Pike, and the Protocols of Zion, written by the Priori of Zion and revised by the Zionist Illuminati. All 3 books describe the plan for an apocalypse or Third World War, which will give birth to one world empire and one world leader. This one world leader is called the Antichrist. The Bible is like a screenplay for a reality disaster movie. The Zionist plan is to create an apocalypse that will exhaust and depopulate the masses through deadly designer viruses, global terror, economic disasters, and nuclear war.
She's talking about deadly designer viruses back in 2002. This has been planned far in advance.
The remaining survivors will gladly embrace the promises of a handsome, charismatic new leader who will unveil his plan of hope for eternal world peace. The only way to achieve eternal world peace, he will explain, is to put an end to the 5 causes of war. Secretly, he knows there is only one main cause of wars: the wars caused by his royal ancestors who planned, provoked, financed, and profited from them. He will sell his peace plan by telling the world that border wars will only end by creating a world without borders. Religious wars will only end by creating one world religion of interfaiths. Economic wars will only end by creating a cashless, debt-free society. Rivalry wars between rulers will only end by creating one world ruler. The tools used for war, from handguns to nuclear bombs, will be eliminated, and one world army will be created, which will guarantee world peace. How will this eternal peace plan be accomplished? Through the United Nations, which is the brainchild of the Committee of 300 ruling families. The UN is their vehicle for world government and is located on 18 acres of prime Manhattan land donated by the most visible of the ruling families, the Rockefellers. The UN is a closed organization with no public records or open meetings. U.S. taxpayers have already invested $2 trillion in this world authority. Although most of the people working for the UN are genuinely working for peace, the UN is a godless organization controlled by the Committee of 300. These inbred ruling families pretend to have royal blue blood, but their blood is no more blue or royal than Hannibal Lecter's blood. Some speculate that these families of evildoers are demons or aliens or evil shape-shifting reptilians, but there is a more scientific explanation for their madness. For thousands of years, these families have practiced inbreeding between sisters and brothers, uncles and nieces, mothers and sons, to keep the power and wealth all in the family. This practice of inbreeding over thousands of years has produced a clever but pathological breed of conscienceless, sociopathic families who will stop at nothing to own every ounce of gold, every drop of water, and every blade of grass on planet Earth. The United Nations, which they founded and control, has clearly stated its goals of establishing a new world order, a UN standing army, and a global taxation system. The Queen's husband, Prince Philip, and Evelyn Rothschild have already established an interfaith declaration for the creation of one world religion. What would life be like in this world empire with one world religion, one world army, one world economy, one world court, one world media, one world government, and one world dictator. What the public doesn't know is that Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto and the Russian Constitution have been built into the UN Charter, and that the New World Order will be a communist world order. Peace on earth will be a forced peace in which citizens will have no rights. No right to bear children without approval, no right to travel without authorization, no right to own private property, no right to privacy, no right to bear arms, no right to protest, no right to receive an inheritance, no right to choose an education or a job or even a place of residence, and worst of all, no right to live. The right to live will be based on an individual's rating of usefulness to the royal elite. In this planned world without borders or nations, citizens will be disarmed of all weapons, including handguns, and will have no means to protest, fight, resist, or challenge this one world authority who will control them spiritually, economically, and militarily. Every human being will be electronically tattooed.
Folks, we can all feel it. Something's coming. And nobody's talking about this date in the Georgia Guidestones at all. And I've proven to you that they tell you what they're going to do before they do it in entertainment. This was a monument. This was carved in stone. It's coming. I don't know what specifically is going to happen on 8/16 of 2024, but I don't know what else that stone would be saying, and something feels like it's going to happen real soon. The Bible does talk about we're going to have to flee into the wilderness and live in the wild to avoid what's coming. And I believe we are getting dangerously close to that time. If you watch this channel, you know I like to end on a positive note, but there's not a lot of positive things to say about what is coming and what they've told us is coming. But they even showed us in like children's specials. Remember Jack Frost and the ice money. Just remember, money today is paper. It's not backed by gold. The only reason it has any value at all is because we assign it a value and we believe the lie that it is valuable. We don't need these people in charge. We don't need their money. You could use pine cones. You could use pine needles. You could use sticks as money. It doesn't matter. And I'm telling you, it's coming. I pray for you all. But on a good note, just watch this from Jack Frost.
A Kaputnik save is a Kaputnik earn. I'm going Oh, my last Kaputnik. We'll have nothing for the holidays.
Oh, Papa, soon you'll have money. Ice money.
Not until Jack Frost comes.
Listen, Papa, he must be about. Jack Frost is close. I can almost hear him.
Now, the reason the folks of January Junction liked winter so much was because of that ice money Mama was talking about. See, Kubla Kraus took all their real money for taxes. But when Jack Frost came, first thing he did was to make lots of pretty icicles. Then the folks took those icicles and sliced them up into ice coins. And soon everybody was rich with their, frozen assets. They're going to phrase. Oops, pardon me for the pun. And nobody was broke anymore. Nice system.
It's time to opt out of this system, folks. They aim to kill or enslave all of us. In Jesus' name, bless you all.